This is Quarantine Chronicles, episode 21 for March 7th. To my virtual left, Jason.
Hello.
To my virtual right, Angel.
Hello.
And today, I'm actually not sure what we're going to talk about because our docket is kind of empty compared to most days. But you know what? We are going to talk about WandaVision. That might take up a huge chunk of what we talk about today.
I have a lot to say about that one.
The one you've seen 20 minutes of, Angel?
You psycho. But regardless what we talk about, we will have timestamps in the blog post. And where else do the timestamps come up in? Do they still come up in
under the YouTube video. And they, I think, are in some of the notes on some of the podcast apps if they put the full post and not the little excerpt. So your best bet is the website. Your second best bet is YouTube. And it's a total crapshoot if it's going to be on your podcast app.
How much does that bother you?
To have to drive people to our website? Not at all.
No, just how
I make banners
the
and live there,
randomness of where stuff shows up.
I mean, it's true to our name, isn't it? Right? Ram Nintendo?
Yeah, but
will you see notes? Will you not see notes? That's some of the fun. We'd just be standard Nintendo if the notes were standard everywhere.
That's
Actually, no,
name.
it does kind of bother me. I'm masking the pain.
Standard Nintendo.
It does kind of bother me.
That almost feels more appropriate for something Jason would have been running. Standard Nintendo.
Well, the name goes back to high school for me, so the name doesn't even... The name, is just a legacy thing at this point. We're not that random. I mean, QC's pretty random, but the name stemmed from on the old site when I was in high school. It was just a hodgepodge of Nintendo things I liked or made. So it was just a random collection of Nintendo things.
Oh.
So,
speaking of
random, yeah.
Yeah, completely off topic, but on Spotify, I gathered the songs that were on Elite Beat Agents. You know, your Michael Jackson's, well, pretty much the non-cover versions, because I don't think I could find the actual cover versions.
AKA the originals?
Sure. they're not the originals to me. I actually heard them. I heard some of them for the first time through Elite Beat Agents.
Really scared you're about to say, man, these versions suck. It's all about those covers in Elite Beat Agents.
I gotta see the songs on this. I gotta see this track list.
I mean, for the most part, I would say I think the originals sound better, but that also might be because, they have much better sound quality than what the DS had. And the cover, they're trying to sound like them as much as possible for the most part. So there's that. The only one that kind of stands out as whoa, this was way different than what we had in Elite Beat Agents was the last song by the Rolling Stones. What was it called? Jumping Jack Flash. In the DS game, it's much, much faster. It's almost twice the speed or maybe 3 times the speed. But as you know, the original song is it feels like they're singing in slow motion to me, just coming from that I kind of prefer the up-tempo one. But I think that's the only exception. But yeah, the only reason I brought it up is just because I have the whole set list and sometimes they just randomly come out when I shuffle my liked songs. That one from Ashlee Simpson came out. I forgot the song.
Looking at the track list right now, this is some track list.
It's
all
a
over
wild
the place.
roller coaster
all over
of
the place.
music. Wait, the Ashlee Simpson song that she ended up doing a hoedown to at SNL when she was caught lip syncing?
Not that one. I remember that was being a slower tempoed song. This one is. I remember this song specifically.
Which one
I had
is
a
it?
huge crush on Ashlee Simpson when she had that whole reality TV show on MTV. I had a huge crush on her. She had that emo phase. She had that emo look to her. Oh, I loved it. The song is called La La.
La La. So you're saying that she... And isn't the chorus you make me want a La La, which I guess is what you're saying about Ashlee Simpson and you?
Yeah, I'll be your French maid, some other things, throw me...
Yeah, you'll be your French maid.
Yeah, so when that song came up and I was listening to it, for some reason, my first thought was oh, this is Jason's relationship to Apple and Nintendo.
What?
You being Ashlee Simpson.
Expand.
Yeah, I need more here.
Because the song is pretty much just do whatever you want with me, I am yours, have fun, kind of deal.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I don't disagree. Hold on, let me get the lyrics up here. Ashlee Simpson. We did break this down. I mean, come on. You said we had so we're breaking this down.
But it was just a thought. Like it was just like a random thing I thought. Like the other day I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny.
What are some of these lyrics? You can dress me up like in diamonds. You can dress me up in dirt. You can throw me like a lineman. I like it better when it hurts.
Exactly.
I do love. I am a glutton for Nintendo's punishment. I am a glutton for Nintendo's punishment.
Yeah. But you know, it's a little extreme version, but I think it captures your relationship pretty well.
You can throw me like a boomerang. I'll come back and beat you up. Yeah, no, I will. If Nintendo, I will. What Nintendo does, I will follow, but then I will criticize it on the podcast. It's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you take the abuse that was the Wii U years. So.
Yeah, and I mean, and I fully was like, hey, the Wii U has some perks. It's like, you know, they can dress me up, they can do whatever, and I'll roll with it. But I will criticize after the fact. Still keep going.
You dealt with.
I am.
You have to deal with to get the pins. Yeah.
That's true. I have both sets of pins sitting here, actually. I am the Ashlee Simpson of the Nintendo world. I don't know how that makes me feel. I really need to, like, one more, I'm just going to look at myself in the mirror and be like, I'm the Ashlee Simpson of Nintendo, and have to, like, accept that.
Yeah, I don't think
the Wikipedia page for the Ashlee Simpson show is way more detailed than it needs to be.
Are they describing what she wears in each episode or something?
No, but it's like, I would think that the Wikipedia page for a show like this wouldn't really go this in depth as to what happens in each episode. Like it's a little too long, to be completely honest. This Wikipedia page, I'm sorry, Ashlee Simpson does not deserve the level of detail that it has. Yeah, no.
Have you seen the Wikipedia page for Lala? I'm scrolling still. I've been scrolling since you started talking. It's like,
oh yeah, this is way too long too.
It's like a small novel. It's like,
when was this last updated?
I mean, someone really liked it.
This page was last edited on the 18th of January, 2021. How? Why?
Who? Why? What?
I wonder if I could see. I can't see the most recent edit either. Jesus.
Nah, you have to be logged into Wikipedia to see that.
Actually, yeah, view history. Duh. Let's see what they do.
We need to know the most recent change, and only the most recent change, I think.
Let's see. Applied CIS template, cleanup formatting.
Oh, boring.
Replacing parameters. Yeah, that's boring.
Is there anything that is like juicy content that was added after the fact?
Release history. I didn't know that you can like upvote or downvote. Oh, never mind. I thought this was upvoting, downvoting edits that happened. Never mind. It's just how big when did this page get too big?
Probably like.
Actually, no. Apparently, it's been this
big always.
Yeah, because oh wait, no. Hold on. Let me see. No, I guess it's just been this big forever. Nope. No. I'm so wrong. Yeah, because it went from like 7,000 bytes to now it's 2,100 bytes. No, 21,000 bytes.
That's
so
like,
back in 2000.
That's 18,000 too many, in my opinion.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. I don't know who's that dedicated to Ashlee Simpson that they had to update her songs Wikipedia.
I mean, I can relate because if I'm the Ashlee Simpson of Nintendo, as has now been declared, I write so much on the podcast outlines. So if I were to make a Wikipedia page, it'd probably be triple that amount.
Have you ever updated or corrected something on a Wikipedia page that was Nintendo related? That you were like, oh, this is wrong.
No, I have my limits. The most I've done, and I don't think I've ever told a story on air, the most I've done is when I was in high school and I was a moderator for the Nintendo Forum and I was a sage with them, meaning, they're like, you're a big fan. I felt like I owed them telling them that there was a mall kiosk at my mall that had pirated N64 games. I'm not kidding. Remember those like all-in-one consoles? Remember those all-in-one consoles that they used to have at the mall? I went to Nintendo's piracy website and like reported it because I was like, they've given me so much. It's only fair I return it. And it continued to be there for 3 more years during the holidays, so clearly it didn't work. But yeah, I narked to Nintendo.
Yeah, snitches get stitches, bro. Like,
I've never gotten a stitch in my life, so clearly I came out unscathed.
Well,
now you're just tempting fate.
I know I am.
Yeah, we're gonna have to change.
I know I'm gonna like walk outside and get hit by like a Mack truck or something today now. But yeah, you have
3 cats now, so maybe it's a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, I got a scar from one of them, but yeah. But I have a question actually. Since we're all posing questions, you brought up covers versus originals. Is there a song for either of you guys where I guess Jumpin' Jack Flash for you, Angel, but Kevin, since you're more of a music follower, is there a song where you prefer the cover over the original, or is it always the original for you?
No. Oh, God, no. Come on. Johnny Cash, Hurt, is much better than Nine Inch Nails version. There's probably a couple of others, too. Shadow Play by The Killers. I'm not a huge Joy Division fan, but I prefer the Killers version of Shadow Play.
And I don't know if it counts as a cover, but I have started to enjoy the Kanye version of Stronger more than the original.
It's not a cover, it's a sample, but I appreciate that as a fan.
That's why I said I don't know.
Mr. West. I know, I'm telling you. It's a sample. You're welcome. Actually, Daft Punk helped on this. It wasn't just he sampled them, he worked with them on it, and then he had Timbaland come in and do the drums.
So he was like, I got an idea. Let's
collaborate. Yeah. Oh. And then Timbaland randomly did the drums uncredited, so the more you know.
Justin Timberlake?
No. The producer for Justin Timberlake. So if you're combining them into a supergroup because Timbaland produces Timberlake, then yes, Justin Timberland. But
whatever happened to Timbaland? He used to be huge, dude.
He
went on to make shoes.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's still producing stuff. He produced 2020 Experience with Timberlake. He does some other stuff, but yeah, I think he had that moment in pop where it was like Knife Furtado and Timberlake and him, and they were everywhere, like 2006 to 8 roughly. And then I think he got a little, like, once he hosted the VMAs as a producer turned host, things got a little weird. I think he got a little too much exposure and his sound was all very similar, so he kind of stepped back. He did some solo albums. One did well, Shock Value. The second one, Shock Value 2, kind of had a ton of collaborations, but did not catch on the same way. And I think that's when he sort of stepped back and realized.
Are you looking at the Wikipedia, or did you just
No, I know this. I know this.
God, why do you know this?
I don't know. I don't know why I know this.
Were you a Timbaland
see how
fan?
I could write what? Not particularly.
Were you a fan?
Not particularly.
Oh, God.
I mean, I remember the
things
VMA.
you know for things you're not particularly.
I have some of his songs, but that's about it. But the reason, like, I remember the VMA aspect of it is because he did like this really weird. He was hosting and he's like, "Check it out, this is what I do," and he was like in a club at the Palms because that year the VMA was at the Palms, like scattered around the hotel. And he just started like fake DJing. Like he clearly wasn't DJing, but they had like a track set up for him and he was like producing, like pressing things, but nothing synced up. And then it randomly started interjecting, here's the tie-in, a Linkin Park sample. And I'm like, what is happening? And then Linkin Park was behind him in the smoke and they performed a surprise performance and he like introed them with his fake DJing. So that's why I know he hosted the VMAs.
What song did they play?
Bleed It Out.
Oh.
Yeah, it was that album cycle. It was Minutes to Midnight, VMAs 2007, like August or so.
Their last decent album.
Is there a Linkin Park cover that you like more?
That one. A Linkin Park cover?
Yeah.
You know what was interesting? I didn't like it more, but I thought it was kind of interesting that so they did the song New Divide for Transformers, right? And it was a big hit for them. And then when Alita Battle Angel or whatever had its first trailer, it did a cover of New Divide by some female singer.
Wait,
who was in,
really?
Yeah, it was like mixed in with the trailer. It wasn't like the song's like a minute and a half long or something. But they did this woman did like this slowed down dramatic cover of New Divide, and I was sitting there thinking like, never mind that's a cover of a Linkin Park song. It's so weird that a song made for a movie was then covered for another movie instead of just either using the song again or like making a new song. Like they commissioned someone to do a cover of a song specifically tied to an entirely different movie, which was just very strange. I'm sure it's not the first time, but it stuck out to me. But yeah, I covers for movies actually. I do kind of like, I don't know if I'd listen to it on its own, but in the context of the trailer, I thought the Radiohead Creep cover for Social
I was literally
Network.
About to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite covers. Like, it's just so
I
cool.
think that's the original example. Like,
Yes.
After that song, every trailer then decided to do a somber take on some huge mainstream song.
Yep. It's very much like how the Inception horns led to every trailer having a brrr in it. Like that was the same thing. And how every poster also, like the Social Network, now slaps words across someone's face, like vertically. It's trendsetter.
Yeah, that reminds me of Mr. Robot's first season poster, which I thought was terrible, and half the reason why I didn't watch that show back when it originally aired. The "Our Democracy Has Been Hacked" poster.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was
straight up the Social
lame.
Network poster. Yeah. Honestly, it's tricky. Mr. Robot's such a weird show because like you can't sell it without sounding hokey. You know what I mean? Like, you kept like, oh, it's about this guy and he hacks and he stops and he's like trying to save democracy and he's kind of like a robber, like, and they want to do like give money to the people and power. It's just like, what? Like, that sounds so, but it's so good.
I remember trying to sell it to Angel's brother. I was like, he's basically Batman for the internet, and I had to like stop myself. I was like, okay, that didn't sound as terrible in my head.
That's a great description. But yeah, it's funny because that show, like, I think after the first season and people that watched it from day one, like myself, were like, oh my god, like, and then it started getting some award buzz, and that's when it started people going, okay, maybe it's a real thing. But I mean, even the show name, Mr. Robot, it's about a hacker. It's just like on the it's on USA. Like, on the surface, none of those things sound like they're gonna make a good show. But
I mean, it still doesn't. But
it is a good show.
USA had that run, I think, after.
Is it on a streaming service?
It's on Amazon Prime now. Yes,
yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, all of it.
Highly recommend.
Maybe I'll check out the last episode.
Season 2 is a bit of a swerve and a bit slower, but it all pays off in the end. Like,
yeah,
it's good. It's good.
Oh, cool. I mean, well, for a good finale.
The last episode, that's not gonna. Oh god, the last episode definitely.
No, do not.
It barely makes sense for people that did watch the show.
I will break COVID guidelines and drive to your house and unplug whatever you're watching on if you try and start with the finale.
I'm literally gonna do that tonight now. It just sounds too interesting.
Oh, I'm not actually gonna break COVID guidelines. That's crazy. But pretend I am and don't do it.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk about it on the next episode.
All right. Well, I mean, now that he brought it up, just watching the last episode, the finale, the series finale, aptly titled of. Oh no, we're not doing this. We got to do the SoCal COVID update.
Oh,
Jason,
yes.
The jingle.
Dun, 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 dun.
I need something like happy because things are getting better. I don't know.
Oh, that'll
COVID,
to a thing.
I don't know.
It's literally the same thing for 6 episodes.
Hold on,
it's funny because you specifically break in between the co and the vid. Vid.
Because I think I'm hesitating when I start the co to know, oh, this is bad, but then I have to deliver the vid. Because it's always like the co has more strength in it than the vid usually, too. I'm always like, co.
All right, come on.
Vid.
Give us the jingle. No one wants to hear this part.
All right.
All right.
When you're feeling sick, ain't a trick. It might be COVID. There. Better? That's
not terrible.
It's good for what it is.
It's the all along from WandaVision, but for COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so specifically here in Los Angeles, things are getting better. Since the last episode. Well, things have been naturally getting better since the start of the year. Surprisingly, I don't think we saw a huge spike after New Year's, right?
We sorted it like Christmas, New Year's was like a wash of bad, but it started getting better like early February, like after those cases, because it takes 2-3 weeks to gestate, and that started getting a little better.
Yeah, and well, now it looks like Newsom might be getting closer to reopening the most of the state, including Los Angeles, and Garcetti saying that LA is on the verge of moving to the red tier as soon as this week. This upcoming week, I guess. I don't know how I feel about that.
It's tricky because it's like we're going in on like a year of this now, right? So, which is wild. Remember, the 3-week lockdown is now a year long. But so we're like like our brains are now wired to think, oh, opening up is bad. But theoretically, like in 6 to 8 weeks, they're administering 2 million vaccines around America a day right now. So in like 6 to 8 weeks, is it bad? Maybe not. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to think anymore. Like, my brain's all like out of whack because the concept of opening up sounds horrible at this moment in time. But by the time like Disneyland's apparently going to reopen on April 1st in a limited capacity, like by the time that stuff rolls around, what's it look like? Because they're saying they'll have enough vaccines for every adult in America by end of May, which is 2 months ahead of the last time we talked about this when Biden was saying July. Like, that's speeding up, especially with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So it's kind of like
percentage success for those, though. Like, are they still as good as the other ones? Yeah.
So Moderna and Pfizer are in the 90% range, and Johnson
and those will continue to be available to everybody.
They are available, but it's different sites different ones. So Moderna and Johnson or Moderna and Pfizer, which are the 2-dose, are available pretty much everywhere. If you can sign up, and those are in the 90% range. Then the Johnson & Johnson one is about 70% effective, but is 1 dose. Now, the catch with all this is the effectiveness is referring to getting COVID, with Johnson & Johnson, if you end up getting COVID, 100% success rate as of now in terms of not dying and not going to the hospital. Same with Moderna and Pfizer. So if you're okay with getting like a mild flu, Johnson & Johnson seems like an okay choice, and it's no different than if you got flu a few years ago. I mean, obviously COVID can kind of kick you when you're down, but the point is it's not going to hospitalize you, it's not going to kill you. So some people are willing to sell for that, and they're actually diverting a lot of the Johnson & Johnson ones specifically towards teachers and whatnot so they can get kids back in school sooner without the teachers being at a major risk. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, the other angle that makes it hard for me personally to know how I feel about it is there's all these different strains of coronavirus now, right? Like there's like the South African variant and the Brazilian variant and this and that next thing. Some of those aren't as effectively nipped in the bud by the vaccines. So if you have the Pfizer vaccine, I was just reading this yesterday, it's like something like the effectiveness of it drops fourfold if you have like the South African variant hit you. If you have the Moderna vaccine, it drops like sixfold. So, from 9% to whatever. And apparently Moderna is making a booster shot. So it actually could be a third Moderna shot that you need to take if you get Moderna. That will then address that specific variant. And it's just going to be this cat and mouse game for a while.
So it's like a patch?
Yeah, essentially. They're cyberpunking it where they have to fix it after the fact. But it's hard to say like how safe, like I really don't know anymore. I used to be like, oh, you gotta lock down, but now I'm kind of like, well, if the majority of people get vaccinated, sure, but then there's these other strains, so do you not? Like, CDC has guidelines on vaccination coming out, I think, next week for people who are vaccinated, so maybe that'll shed some light. But right now, I'm just kind of like, in my opinion, it feels premature to open stuff this week, but I feel like in a month or two, it makes sense. Like, Texas going all in, 100% everything open, no mask required, makes zero sense to me. But, like, the kind of staggered openings.
There, Texas listeners.
Yeah, it sucks. Feel bad. And the worst part is, like there's a lot of people, even within Texas, of course, who are wanting to abide by it. Like a lot of stores in Texas are still going to require masks. Alamo Drafthouse says they are. Target says they are, a bunch. But still, it's just like it's really hard to enforce when someone can go, but the government says I don't need to. And they're just going to storm the store anyway, which they did before regardless as protests, quote unquote. So, I feel bad for people that are trying to adhere to being safe while still trying to do their grocery shopping or whatever. So it's going to be a weird, wacky few months, but it seems like, to me at least, there is light at the end of the tunnel, which is kind of nice. And like the tunnel's we're coming towards the end of the tunnel, but it just seems like, yeah, people might be jumping the gun a few weeks or months. I don't know. I really don't know how to assess it anymore. Like I had such a mindset and now it's all scrambled because there's all these different factors that I'm not a professional. I don't know how to account for. So yeah, that's my hot take.
Are either of you, close to getting the vaccine, or at least your parents?
My dad has gotten both doses.
Both doses of the, Pfizer?
Moderna.
Gotcha.
Yep, over at Dr. Sam.
Yeah, like my mom already got both doses of the Pfizer, as well as my brother, because he's still like employed as my sister's optometry clinic. So, yeah.
What's funny though is not about that. That's good. But what's funny is my mom is
it pays to help out clients.
It does, but yeah, my mom is just under the 65 and over, so she was going to be in the next group, and then LA per Biden administration's, hey, let's get educators vaccinated so we can get schools back up and running. She was going to be in the next group, and then like, just kidding, educators, come on down. And she's like, oh, all right. She's literally like 9 months short of being old enough to get it in the current group. So she's just kind of sitting around like, well, I guess I'm not going to get vaccinated anytime soon. But then again, at the rate,
educators list, Jason, we educate the people every week on this podcast.
I wonder if I could submit. There's like a website
podcast.
There's like a website for like putting your field in and everything. I wonder if we could put Random Time podcast. That'd be funny. Yeah,
I put all my information in that website, and they're like, "No, dog, you do not deserve this thing."
They're like, you have a cartoon render of yourself in the header. You're not legit, or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, at the rate that J&J is rolling out and the other two, I mean, 2 million doses a day, it's sooner rather than later for like the rest of the population. It feels like. I mean, if they're saying by end of May they'll have enough vaccine for everyone in America, every adult, that's 8 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now. That's very soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
For sure. Yeah.
And man, we might be able to end this podcast before its year anniversary. So we'll see.
I don't know about that because not everything's gonna be 100% back to normal.
How long until the end of May?
Like 10 weeks, and this turns a year in April, I think. But just because isn't it? Maybe it's May. Oh, maybe it's June. I don't even know. But
I think it was June.
It might have been June.
Yeah,
well, I was going to say, just because, and this is the thing the CC is going to say probably, is just because people are getting vaccinated doesn't mean we're 100% back to not wearing masks.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So in a weird way, I feel like we're going to keep this going as Quarantine Chronicles because we're still not at normal society. We're still kind of locked in some capacity. So, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Now, I guess let's get into the fun stuff. Well, I don't know everybody's opinion on this, but now I guess we can talk about WandaVision.
Spoiler alert.
I guess we'll
There's
start
no way
with...
we can't really... Yeah, I mean, it's...
I only know spoilers.
He only knows spoilers, that's my point.
Okay, well...
That's okay, you guys can talk about other stuff first.
Let's talk just general feelings about the season. Me and you, I guess you, Angel, whatever you felt.
His 20
coming out of that final
honestly,
episode.
Kevin,
they did give me a recap at the beginning, so I feel like I am pretty...
Wait. You watched the last 20 minutes, but you got a recap at the beginning, so you actually watched like 21 minutes, you liar?
I mean, when I turned it on, it said previously on WandaVision. I'm like, sure, I'll check this out.
I feel like for me, my general feeling is going to tie into the spoiler. Like, I don't know how to discuss it without talking about spoilers, because I feel like the things that happened are what made me feel how I feel, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, I guess...
Kevin, if you have general thoughts, you go first. Go first.
No, yeah. I thought it was... Obviously, we did the podcast when it originally premiered back, in January?
Yep.
And there I wasn't feeling too hot, especially those first two episodes. I was warming up on the third episode, and then as the show went along, I progressively I generally warmed up to the show. And was definitely feeling like, man, this show could actually go to some interesting places. And then the series finale, I was like, oh, okay, well. So I didn't feel like the ending stuck the landing. And because of that, it kind of salted the rest of the show for me a little bit. So I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, I'd probably give this like a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, being generous.
Yeah, I think... It's interesting because I think, and this I don't think it's spoiler, but I think the thing it did stick the landing of is ultimately what the show is trying to be. It felt like, at least higher level here, is a story about Wanda's grief and how she faced it and how she tried to overcome it. And I feel like that part of the show worked. Like, I feel like that part of the show, it achieved what it needed to do. The way that they decide to put the pin at the end of her grief, like, one way versus another, which we'll get into in a few minutes. I feel like regardless of how they did it, the fact is the journey of how she got to that grief and got to that final episode was still pretty strong. So I'm content with that. Like, I thought that was good. But then everything that kind of happened around it is where things got kind of weird for me, and how they chose to play out certain aspects of how her grief, like the ripple of it, so to speak. That's where things got kind of odd. So like, I think if they went, we want to do a show about Wanda's grief, boom, 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 they nailed, like her burying herself in the TV shows and all that. But then it's like when they tried to go beyond that, that's when it sort of got strange. Like it worked. Like it felt very MCU. Like it kind of did what it needed to do in the way that the movies do, but it definitely felt like sort of like not what it could have been. Like there's untapped potential there. And I think a lot of it had to do with pacing. Like I feel like the last episode
Yeah, I was gonna say, like literally based on what both of you said, like it literally sounds like I made the best choice by just watching, like, not just the last episode, but like the last like 20.
Well, I'd say the opposite.
No.
I'm saying everything that led up to the last episode of Wanda exploring her situation was more interesting than the last episode.
I'll explain in a sec, I guess.
I mean, if you don't care, Angel, if you don't care about Wanda or Vision, and you just want to know the outcome of like, okay, what happens next in the MCU? Certainly, the last episode is like, here you go. Here's what's gonna. Here's what you need to know for Phase 4, essentially. But it felt so disconnected from like how they got there. Like it felt like the way, I feel like I'm gonna drift into spoilers here, but I feel like the show
Okay, let's just go into spoilers.
I was gonna say, I feel like the show started off very much focusing on like, here's some classic TV tropes. We're gonna slowly kind of subvert those and make them weird and make them kind of like dark. Like it'll be like, haha, silly sitcom, but like under it, there's like this undercurrent. And then like, it slowly started pulling back on the TV tropes and replacing them with like MCU normal Marvel tropes. But it didn't do them in like a subverting way. It's just like, oh yeah, these are just the Marvel tropes now. You know what I mean? Like especially the last episode. Like, I don't think they needed necessarily, like they were so good at like, hey, here's what like a TV show was like at that time, and then here's what's going on behind the scenes. Here's what Wanda's going through. Here's this and the next thing. And then by the last episode, it's just like, so how about a big CG fight? Everyone loves those in the MCU. It's like, felt a little out of place. I don't even think that's fair or just in general correct, because one of the biggest criticisms that the Marvel movies always get is the fights usually devolve into punch, shoot, and usually with characters that are exactly the same in some way. I was speaking to Elvis about this. In Black Panther, you got Black Panther versus Black Panther. In Iron Man, you got Iron Man versus Iron Man.
Ant-Man.
What else? Ant-Man, versus another Ant-Man.
Yeah,
and
it's
to see this,
Doctor Strange versus another Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and then to see this show go from this pretty interesting sort of, I wouldn't go as far as to say character study, but from this,
essentially, right? Like, especially the episode before the finale, I felt like really digging into her past side. Character study.
And I think that episode was the best episode of the.
For sure. Yeah, it made me actually care about her a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, going from something a little bit more introspective to witch versus witch, vision versus vision, I thought was so lame. And I had this sinking feeling ever since the, I believe it was the post-credit scene of the last episode where you see White Vision being constructed. I was like, oh, that's where they're going with this.
What I appreciate from that, though, is the Vision battle, while it was a minute or two of like, they're flying around, it became like a dueling of wits, which felt more in character at least. Like, it was like, they're talking about that theory of, like, what is the real thing, and, like, I was like, okay, at least, like, Paul Bettany's doing his Paul Bettany thing, just two of him. But,
Paul Bettany.
Or
Paul
Bettany, not Brittany. Yeah, Bettany, thank you.
Come on, Jason.
But yeah, like, the witch stuff was a little, I mean, Catherine Hahn, like, I think she's great in a lot of stuff, but yeah, it was a little bit like, okay, it's just Marvel trope. And it's not even, like, clever like how they did the other tropes, it's just Marvel tropes at this point.
Yeah. Angel, considering that you only saw the last episode, what did you think?
So, like, as a passive Marvel fan, like, I don't necessarily watch these out of, like, I guess, obligation.
Necessity.
Yeah, necessity. Like, I can easily, like, I could have just not watched this. It was just more, like, for fun, like, because of this. And just because of them being Jason and Kevin. So, like, I don't really care about, like, learning as much backstory. I just kind of want to know the gist of it. And, like, the premise, like, was pretty clear, like, from the beginning. Like, like, when they first introduced the show, like, oh, it's about Wanda grieving about Vision dying, and, because she has crazy powers that they could pretty much do whatever they want with, she just created an alternate reality where, she's still happy. So, like, that's, like, all I knew going in. And, the recap...
That's all you needed coming out.
Yeah, and, like, pretty much, like, like, I saw most of the movies. At the very least, I saw the ones that Wanda was in. So, like, I saw that arc. I saw, if anything, like, the way the relationship developed almost felt like it came out of nowhere. That was always, like, the part that was like, oh, I guess they're a thing now. But, like, you see the sadness, whatever. I mean, yeah, that was sad. When she loses her vision, and, yeah, I guess the whole time stone thing. But anyway, the recap, I guess, definitely was, like, I guess confusing in the sense that it's like, oh,
I would never imagine why.
Like, there are
could be because you're missing, I don't know, like, 8 hours of television before it.
I mean, confusing confusing is the wrong word. It's just more like, oh, I guess all this stuff happened, but none of it seemed to matter.
That's
at
every
the end.
TV show.
No, like, well, yeah, but none of it seemed to matter to like how it ended. Yeah. Like I literally felt like I didn't miss much. Like, oh, like the timestamp where I started was actually what's funny is that since we're already in spoiler territory, when I got when I was getting the recap, I was seeing like like the Bobby Newport's campaign manager like had Wanda pin.
Yes, Catherine Hahn, Agatha.
Sure. And she had a pin that like, oh, like he who controls the runes controls the magic or something. And I'm like, all right, cool. So there's like an evil witch or something. And then I skipped to, I think it was like 22 or 23. And like, oh, I guess like people are trying to break in. Obviously, like the whole illusion's falling apart. And then the moment I skipped to was, I guess, when it looked like, I guess Wanda was like about to lose the beam battle. Like, oh, she's like getting her strength back. And then she's like, oh, he who controls the runes controls the magic. And I'm like, oh, it's a callback. Haha.
Oh
and
my God.
it's like almost immediately. It was like perfect timing. And then, she wins. She puts her in her place. And then suddenly, I guess because the show was ending, the combat zone was closing in, a la like PUBG and Battle Royale. So they had to run to the center so they could try to get like the winner chicken dinner. And eventually,
I never thought about how this was basically a Battle Royale at the end. That's actually like the ending is literally that's so weird.
And yeah, you're pretty much like, I get like you get the heartfelt, sentimental, like goodbye of like, yeah, I know you're not real, kind of, but like this is not goodbye. This is let's say hello later. Yeah. And just from what I've seen from the movies, like I still got like that emotional punch just like from their performances, and that was still great. Yeah, I don't know who these kids were, the emotional attachment to them, but it's like they came and went, and yeah, so she, I guess, learned her lesson. She's gonna live in the woods now, and
I don't know if she learned her lesson though, because she left with the entire town hating her and her like not even apologizing to the town. And I know that part.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's what I said. That's what I said. I guess she learned her lesson because she apologized to the daughter of the friend of Captain Marvel. Sure.
Yeah, Maka.
And I feel it's more confusing that way. And yeah, so she apologized to her. She's like, yeah, like I messed up. If anything, yeah, what she did, yeah, I'm surprised it's gonna go unpunished.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know if it will. That's sort of.
I mean, the last time she did something like this, we got like what were they called? The something accords because of the whole.
Sokovian.
Sokovian Accords. Yeah.
It's funny that she's responsible for two pretty bad things, but.
And that
I was satisfied. I was literally satisfied with what I saw, because I guess I didn't get any of that awkward, I guess, first 2 episode drag that a lot of people were getting. I just got like, just tell me what I need to know, and I got that presented in with the production values that they have, and then it was just over, and I was like, cool, I'm happy. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think you are embodying the problem with the show. Angel, you are the problem. It's not that.
People that watched the last 20 episodes of the show?
No, well, it's not so much. You went into it the same way that someone approaches a Marvel movie. It's just like, all right, there's one takeaway, and then we wait for the sequel or the next movie, and it tells me more. But the show had all these other aspects to it that were in between, and then just kind of dropped. Like, for example, you may remember in the ending, Darcy, you may recognize her from Thor, Kat Dennings. She had one line in the entire last episode, and it was driving a truck into the big bad government guy, Hayward, and then she's like, I stopped you, and that was it, and her character is no longer relevant. And then, like, Jimmy Woo, who's Randall Park, he was, Randall Park, who's Jimmy Woo, that's probably better.
Always be my maybe dude.
Yeah.
No,
he like they were doing some stuff with him kind of subverting like the government plans, even though he's in the government, and then it just kind of ended with him like being in the same place he was at the start. And like every character except Wanda didn't really have an arc. So that's why I was saying the Wanda portion was handled really well, I thought. Like I even really liked that ending where her and Vision were saying goodbye. Like I thought that was like, okay, that had some weight from the entire.
I mean, that's pretty much what I was hoping to get from the show. Because
you only watched 20 minutes, but those who invested 9 hours, they have all these threads they left, like the whole Pietro thing. We haven't talked about that. So they cast the guy that played Quicksilver in the X-Men movies as a cameo in WandaVision, but he played Quicksilver again. He played her brother Pietro. And they never, it was a stinger for an episode. They kind of alluded, like, who is he actually him? Is he not? And it ended up being all for basically a TV trope joke. Like, a lot of people are now like, oh, they made a joke where his name's Boner. That was the whole joke. It's just a dude named Ralph Boner, haha. But there's actually a TV trope reference in that. Boner is from Growing Pains. Not the character, but the name. Growing Pains, which is one of the sitcoms they referenced earlier in the season, the 80s show, which was kind of like the Brady Bunch Full House sort of riffing episode, the intro of all the family photos of them growing up is the Growing Pains intro. And then Boner was a character on Growing Pains who came in randomly, lived in their garage, had no purpose there, and was just this weird side character was just there. And then that was it. He was gone. Like, it was completely worthless. And like tons of sitcoms have that character they introduced later on just to throw a wrench in the dynamic, and he's just kind of there. Like, there's Uncle Jesse that does that in one show, and like there's a bunch of different people that are that kind of character. So I think Boner, while it was messing with the fans as he Quicksilver, was actually just a TV trope that they sort of weaved into the story, because like literally the character Boner is that in Growing Pains. But they set it up like it was gonna be something bigger.
I do love that they sort of trolled the fans with that.
Yeah.
I was really into the idea of like, this is how they're bringing, not necessarily the Fox X-Men universe into the MCU, but maybe a character or two from here. Like, maybe now Deadpool being in the MCU is going to make a little bit more sense. And I do love the fact that they just dropped it just like that. It was like, this guy's just an actor.
And it's funny because
makes sense for the quote unquote recast. Like everything makes sense now in context, obviously. But yeah, I love that they were just.
Oh yeah, and I
love that. I love that they did that, but at the same time, it did make the episode feel a little bit safe.
Yes, I agree, and I think there's something interesting going on here where we're talking. We talk about the TV tropes they do, the Marvel tropes they're falling back on. I feel like there's like a meta game almost where like the show was toying with what expectations from a Marvel thing or a typical TV show are, because like Boner, Pietro or Fietro, as Agatha calls him at one point, was, kind of toying with fan expectations. And then the way that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul, what's his last name again? I'll get it wrong.
Rudd?
Yeah, the way not Rudd, but the way they both were doing interviews during the show, like, oh, there's gonna be this huge cameo, like you have no idea, and they were like saying expectations of like falling into like a typical, like what a show does. I mean, she was saying early on, there's a cameo you'll never expect. It ended up being Pietro. He was saying, there's this great actor I'd love to work with. I've always wanted to work with. He's gonna be in the finale. It's gonna be so good, you'll love it. He was talking about himself. It was
which
joke.
I also love.
The fact is,
Bob Benny's is a joy. I love.
Oh yeah, he's always entertaining when he does interviews. Yeah, but so entertaining. I don't even know how to say his last name. But and there's this whole bubble of like, or not bubble, but like this whole separate conversation happening of what like fans thought the show was gonna be, because they were bringing in X-Men and there was all these teases and this, that, and the next thing, and like I feel like because there's been a lot of disappointment online. And I feel like a lot of it where people went wild with fan theories and went super like, well, this is going to be the kickoff of all of Phase 4, even though no way it was. Originally, Falcon and Winter Soldier was going to come first, and then WandaVision, but they flipped them due to COVID and production issues. So now Falcon and Winter Soldier, which was the kickoff of Phase 4, is actually the second one. So there's no way anything WandaVision did was going to be like the kickoff. But people were expecting these huge things. There were rumors of like Fantastic Four being involved and X-Men and this
yeah,
and the next
Fantastic
thing.
Four one never made sense to me at all.
Me neither, but like it was out there, and like people were.
It's like Monica says, like, "Oh, I got a friend," and people were like, "Oh, she's got to be talking about Reed Richards or Richard."
Yeah,
Reed.
which is like, why does she have to be talking about that this phase? And even if she did say that, why would it be in this show? That's the thing. Is like the narrative of what the show was, quote unquote, got ahead of what the show actually is, which is like, as you put, a character study of Wanda. So like all the people are like, well, that was such a letdown, like nothing happened. It's like, nah, it's about right. Like Angel is someone who came in only, passively watching Marvel and knowing kind of what to expect from a Marvel story. You got exactly what any Marvel story gives you. And then they had the tease at the end, she's in the woods, but they're playing a kind of slowed down Doctor Strange theme, which is okay. It'll tie into the next Doctor Strange movie with the multiverse. Like they did exactly what a normal Marvel movie would do. The only difference is, because it's stretched out over a whole show, the loose ends that normally in a movie it's like, oh, okay, whatever, it's just a side character, felt more dropped to me in the show because there was so much more time spent on those threads that went nowhere. And that's my only real complaint, whatever you want to call it, is like it didn't, like it was following the beats. It just, because it was stretched out, like the pacing and everything made it seem kind of weirder, you know?
Monica got shafted in this last episode so bad. I hated that so much. She was probably my favorite character of the show. And to see her just pretty much not do anything was really disappointing. I know they're setting her up for Captain Marvel 2 or Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I think they're setting her up for Secret Invasion.
Come on. Do something better with her if you're going to build her up this entire time.
Especially because, like, it's a really interesting idea of, like, so Wanda's, like, how you handle grief poorly, and Monica is, like, how you handle grief correctly, because she finds out right at the start, you know, about her mom. Because she was, I'm trying to remember, she was in the snaps when she came back.
She was
right?
blipped.
Yeah. So, like, they kind of, like, set that up, like, that guy Kami, which I think is why Monica almost, like, gave Wanda a free pass on, like, kidnapping a town, which was weird, but like she's literally like, they'll understand your sacrifice. I don't know, like you gave up your fake husband and your 2 kids, and all these town folks had to live with your nightmares and couldn't see any of their families, and we're like, what's the PTSD from that going to look like for them? Like I don't know, but anyway, I think that's why Monica gave her a free pass, but they never really explored Monica's grief beyond like that initial scene. So it's like, oh, she just handles it well, don't worry about it, but here's 8 episodes of how to not handle it well, and then they're supposedly on equal footing, and that just felt kind of weird.
Angel, if there is a scene that you should see, it's the scene of Monica coming back from the blip, from the snap.
Yeah,
I
thought that was
probably
cool.
the best scene in the series. I love that scene because Far From Home does it the comedic way, and this one does it in such a much more realistic, almost terrifying way. Like you see it from the other lens, which
what episode is that
awesome.
I think it's the first.
Episode 4.
Or no, right, it's the 4th. That's right. The first was entirely in the.
I mean, I ended up subscribing for a month of Disney Plus, so I don't mind like checking out something. But you're probably wondering, wait, so if you are paying $6.99 for a month of it, why not just watch the whole episode? Well, let me ask.
You're a
Jason.
psychopath.
Well, Jason, you pay $60 for a game. Why not beat a whole game?
Okay, well, why are you taking shots at me? I wasn't criticizing.
That's a really good point.
No, it's just a point in general.
I
Like, you know, I feel like that applies to many people. It's like,
well, the difference is I don't jump to the end game. I start at the beginning and don't make my way through.
Well, that's the thing. Like, beginnings, like, if you don't care that much about a franchise, the beginning is going to be it's going to feel slower and less interesting. Like, since I kind of just want to have a overall understanding of what's going on, or, you know, like the Spark Notes equivalent. Like, skipping to the end makes more sense in my head. And so far, it's worked out well, because, I mean, I don't necessarily care that much about Star Wars. Like, every once in a while, I'm kind of like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like, I just want to know about it, but I don't really care to watch it. So watching the fun episode of The Mandalorian of that season so far, at least, I don't know, I was very satisfied with what I saw. Like, I got the kind of action I wanted overall. Like, I saw how the story ended. It was like, cool. Like, I'm satisfied without having to invest all that other time, which I know if I was a big fan, I would have obviously enjoyed a lot more. Kind of like this one. Like, it sounds like because I'm more disconnected from this franchise, like, I didn't get the lows that other people got, but, you know, I also didn't get all that other nuanced stuff that you also pointed out.
Right.
Which does kind of bring me to, like, kind of a side thing that it's just kind of unfortunate with, like, the unfortunate nature of these kinds of shows that are just, like, adaptations, for lack of a better term. Because, yeah, like, all those fan theories and stuff, like, it sucks. Like, it literally reminds me of, which, you know, didn't even have that long ago, like, what happened with Star Wars Episode 8. Because before that movie came out, I also remembered there were, like, theories all over the place. Like, there was even, like, that theory that, like, oh, Jar Jar is actually a Sith. And there were some versions of that theory that actually kind of
know if anybody was really serious about that.
Yeah, that one was a meme, I think. But
no, I know.
No,
like,
Angel, if you watched the whole thing and knew the true nuance of everything, you would.
Yeah, but I don't care to, though. But either way, like, I mean, like I read a few of these, and, like, there were some that were, like, really fun. Like, I was really hoping the Jar Jar one would be true, just because it just seemed like it'd be really entertaining. But there were, like, a few that people were saying, like, oh, like, this one, like, is the only one that makes sense, like, because of, like, the way the story is going, if you watch blah, 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 the hints, and they're kind of adapting like the story from like this book because it's hitting those beats or whatever. And and then obviously none of that happened. Like they subverted expectations that they love to saying over and over again. And people were saying it's like the worst thing ever. It's like, I mean, maybe it was bad on its own. I mean, but
thought it was kind of refreshing.
I don't know.
I liked it.
I mean, obviously, like I didn't mind it because like I said, like detached from it, so I was able to just watch the movie. I did think the Space Vegas was kind of pointless, but
that was no different than the cantina or anything like that. Like that was a cantina nod. In terms of the plot involving Space Vegas, where you had to free the thingy, sure, I'll give you that. But like the idea of Space Vegas made total sense to me.
Well, because the Space Vegas thing ended up blowing up in their face, right? Like I remember they went to go get someone in Space Vegas to help them, but then that person ended up betraying them, so they were like that. It was like a side quest that ended up not meaning anything in the end. Whereas the Cantina one, or I mean, assuming we're thinking about the same thing in the other movie, on the older movies, like it's still the main characters. Like the plot is still progressing forward.
Oh yeah, no, I just meant the setting. What they did there was weird, but the setting,
it was literally a B plot that could have been separated, and they wouldn't lose anything. But yeah, I don't know. It's fan expectations definitely are always gonna go overboard, and when people keep feeding into this, especially with Marvel more than anything, like it must be really hard for the developers, the writers to try to surprise everybody, because you have the hardcore fans that read all the comics, that read all the books, that seen all this other stuff, and they're already going to be like, oh, this story is just like this other one, so this is going to happen, how we're alluding. And then you have the people that don't really know about it but hear the stuff and will think oh, actually that sounds pretty cool and interesting.
That's me. I'm the one that doesn't know the deeper but hear the theories and go, huh.
Yeah, and you hear about these characters oh, I want to see that character. They sound like a new a new satisfying replacement for Thanos or whatever. And you end up and then people that probably wouldn't have been disappointed if they hadn't been exposed to that side of the culture, they end up being disappointed. But I'm sure they also want that because it's marketing. They have everybody talking. More people are probably watching it because of these theories.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the problem is when the theories then dictate the show or the movie. In the sense of, it came out a few
weird
weeks
and interesting.
Yeah, but it came out a few weeks ago that Daisy Ridley said in some interview recently, she was told Rey in Star Wars is a no one for all of the filming of 7 and 8. And then when 9 rolled around, they're like, oh, by the way, spoiler for episode 9, I'll wait a beat. You're Palpatine. And she's like, wait, what? So, they literally changed her character's path because fan reaction. And then what's even worse is then the fans didn't like that one either. So it's just you can't win if you're doing adaptations. It's true. Fan theories are super fun. We, referenced Mr. Robot towards the start of the episode here. That was a really fun subreddit to read. Yeah. Because no one knew because it was all original and there were all sorts of crazy ideas. And I feel like Mr. Robot, people were drawing the gif of Charlie Day, the meme of him on the board with all the strings and the clues, that was the Mr. Robot subreddit, and people were drawing crazy connections. And I feel like somehow for the most part the show still exceeded what people expected. So it's original material, it's easy to use fan theories to your advantage, but you're right, for adaptations it gets really tricky really fast.
Yeah.
Especially if you do a water cooler style thing like WandaVision, where they purposely pace it one per week to get people talking. If they did an episode dump, you don't see the sort of thing with Stranger Things, which I know is original, but I mean, you don't see fan theories as much because they just do 8 at once, and that's all right, just theorize about next season, but we're not going to give you much to work with, and that's it. But when it's something like WandaVision where they're purposely trying to pace it to be the hot topic, and that does build the momentum and does build the marketing and does build the audience, it also means that there's 8 opportunities for things to go awry among the fan base, essentially.
Yeah, I don't really want to tell people oh, don't look at fan theory, because like you said, sometimes it's fun to speculate. It's always fun to speculate.
Yeah.
But then it also gets to that point where it's oh, well, at the end of the day, you have to, when you watch the actual show, you have to, I don't want to tell someone force those other thoughts out of you, because at the end of the day, I mean, if you're disappointed in the story, I don't know, it's are you wrong for, I mean, sure, you shouldn't be too upset for something not happening that at the end of the day maybe wasn't even implied what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But, then you get a lot of well, in its own bubble, it was good for what it was, which, is they can be true, but I also don't want to tell people like, yeah, you're not allowed to be upset at it or dislike it because it didn't meet up your expectation. Because at the end of the day, they're just expectations. I mean, they could have gone that way, but they didn't. Well,
and I think that's why I was saying, at the very top of this, like, I thought they did well with the story of Wanda, because sure, the expectation that, it's Fantastic Four at the end, or Pietro's like secretly the X-Men introduction into the MCU. It's like, all right, sure, we can run with those theories and be disappointed if they don't happen if you want to, but like they said, this was a story about Wanda, and the Wanda arc itself was good, I thought. So even if they didn't quite pin the landing, like I was saying at the start here, like the story of Wanda I thought was good, and all the other stuff was kind of superfluous to that. So that's kind of, what the fans thought the show would be, and the disappointment that could come with that versus what like Disney or the creators, not even Disney, set out for it to actually be. And there's kind of that disconnect there sometimes, which can be difficult. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Things I did like. Wanda's new costume's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I'm that much more interested for Multiverse of Madness now.
Me too. I am very curious about Phase 4 now. Like, I thought they teased it. Like, and not even that, but like, what's up with White Vision? Where'd he go? What's he doing? Like,
I think
he gets some memories, and then what was that?
I think that's the last time we saw of him, honestly.
Really?
Yep.
No, because that's how they're going to keep Vision alive in the MCU beyond. I don't think he's going to be in every single movie, but I think he's coming back. There's no way they just dropped him. Like, he got he got the memories to know what Vision was, because he is Vision. And now he's off to go, I don't know, find himself or something. Like, where would he go? He's coming
That
back.
being said, I do not care about her kids at all. So at the end of WandaVision, where she hears her kids, I was like, oh, those kids were so hokey. They were brought in so rushed for obvious reasons.
I think the kids are a vehicle for some sort of, if we're all getting a theory, some sort of interdimensional riff or something, which then becomes the problem in Doctor Strange 2. Whether intentional or not, whether whether she's actually an anti-hero or a true hero, debatably the way that they kind of brushed off what she did at the town, but, whatever it is, I think whatever she's cooking up in that cabin is going to end up causing problems, and that's when Doctor Strange has to come in, and either he works with Wanda or against Wanda to try and resolve it. And that's going to be Multiverse of Madness is my guess. But I think that's a safe guess compared to like some of the crazy fan theories like, Wolverine's going to step out of there and that's going to be like Fortnite because there's Batman. It's like, what? No, it's going to, I think it's going to, something involving that. And there's theories, there's speculation that Sam Raimi actually shot that stinger at the end of WandaVision because it was his style of, like shaky cam zoom. So they might have actually done that.
I can kind of see that, I guess.
Yeah, so they also made a reference to him on the marquee of the movie theater at one point. And that was the other thing I want to say about WandaVision really quick, because they had a lot of cool references. Obviously the TV show stuff, but like, the movies on the marquee throughout the series were all like kind of on point. Like at one point they referenced the episode where her kids gain powers. It says The Incredibles on the marquee. And then in this episode, they have Oz the Great and the Powerful listed. One, they have a Wizard of Oz reference in the episode when Agatha gets hit with the car, but also Sam Raimi directed that, and it's transitioning right into Multiverse of Madness next, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in 2 weeks, Falcon and the Winter Soldier premieres, and I can't wait to hear all the reviews on how, this is just standard Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are your expectations? Are you looking forward to it, or are you just expecting it to be just like a 6-episode action-packed thing, or?
Yeah, the latter. But I'm still looking forward to it.
Same.
Considering the fact that they started off so weird and then they just played it safe, I'm like, well, okay, why should I get excited for a TV show that's going to try and do something weird?
Yeah. What I'm hoping is, like, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be pretty by the book. What I'm hoping is Loki, what the Loki series does for Loki, to me, is what Wanda did for me, which is like Loki. I know he has a huge fan following. I know people love him, but I never fully, like, he didn't click with me. Like the same way that WandaVision, I'm just like, I guess I guess they're characters, sure. Like that's how Loki's always kind of felt to me, even though I know there's the dichotomy with him and Thor, and it's gone way back. But he's always been kind of just like, okay. So I'm kind of hoping that the Loki show, where he's like going, I think it's interdimensional. He's like doing some sort of like crime thriller heist thing. I'm hoping that will make me like him as much as it's turned me around on WandaVision. But that's not till June. So
Yeah, so we'll see.
yeah.
Angel, want to talk to us about Hearthstone and its big upcoming update?
Yeah, I could briefly chat about that. Like the last 2 weeks, yeah, I guess that was it. So another week, I haven't really played many new things. I mean, outside of like the SNK Capcom thing, I've kind of just been going through my usual gaming motions of just a lot of Hearthstone, a lot of Brawl Stars, and diving a little back into Final Fantasy 14. Just really want to get through that story so I can start playing with my buddies. Um, but yeah, like I don't know, I guess like what Hearthstone's doing, I just always find it interesting how this game just keeps evolving. Like just because it's a free to play game and as a card game as well. Like how do they keep it interesting and how do they keep, I guess, me of all people, like continuously giving them money when I obviously don't have to at this point. Um, because I mean, in the beginning, kind of like other trading card games, like they didn't have a rotation set. Every card you got was always usable in the online competitive format. But then over time, they had so many cards in there that they had to do a rotation, kind of like how Magic the Gathering does. I don't think, I mean, it's been like over a decade since I played Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point. But I know they pretty much, you could always use any card from any pack that ever came out, except they had I think a yearly list of cards that they would manually ban or change just so that, the game would stay as balanced as possible. And of course, you have the crazy power creep, which, yeah, definitely kind of makes it impossible to go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! If I ever wanted to. But as far as Hearthstone goes, because it's a digital card game, and I definitely love the fact that I don't have to, collect a bunch of cards. Well, at least, space wise. They did something, I guess, like they started doing bi-yearly rotations, and I mean bi-yearly as in every 2 years. But every year you get 3 new sets. So right now I think we are in the year of the Phoenix, or maybe that was the year before. I forget because there've been so many at this point. But essentially, for a whole 2 years, you would have essentially by the end of it 6 packs of about 150 cards each, roughly, plus something called the core set that never changes. That's like around 280 cards or something like that. And those core cards essentially give each class identities because, in case I didn't mention in the past, um, Hearthstone has, besides being a deck building game, you pick between 9 different heroes that you want to play as, and each hero has a different play style for the most part. Like I love to play as the rogue and the shaman because the rogue has a bunch of just ways to cheat out. Like I guess just playing a bunch of cards in one turn, usually low cost cards, usually comboing things together, with a literal combo mechanic. But the one that I love the most is just the rogue strategy of essentially pulling cards from any class and just randomly getting them, which doesn't sound like the most strategic thing, but it's really, really fun. But point is, those core cards like have been around for so long that a lot of decks have started becoming, I guess, stale for the most part, or some just couldn't really, I guess, get that much better because they were just stuck with what they had. And starting next month, we still don't know when, they're actually going to rotate out those 280 cards with completely new ones. Like, they are essentially just going to, well, I guess I shouldn't say completely new ones, but those core cards are going to be changing every single year. So if you manage to collect all 280 of those, like they're going to rotate out. And you're going to get, I guess, well, they said for free. We still don't know exactly what that means. Like whether you're just going to get a giant wad of like 280 digital cards, or if you have to, I guess you only get the ones you quote unquote unlocked through playing the game. So I may not have all of them. But, at least this way, they hope to keep the game a lot fresher and, kind of revamp those classes that either are getting kind of stale to play against or just kind of needed a buff of some sort. Just because, the design space was limited with what was already there. Like they are rotating out a bunch of cards that I guess created, what people called Exodia combos, which, if you played Yu-Gi-Oh, you get these 5 cards in your hand and you literally automatically win the game and there's nothing your opponent can do. Like there was equivalents like that if you had those cards in your hand, you play the combo and it's an automatic win. So it does make me more excited for what's to come. And just when I thought I was getting like closer to, I guess, retiring Hearthstone, just because I felt like, oh, I'm gonna try to get to Legend in a few months, and that will be my equivalent of making the credits roll. Because for a free to play game, I don't know, I just love the model. Like, it's so easy for someone to get in and slowly build up like a card collection. And yeah, it'll take a while. Like, I mean, this might be too long for many people, but it'll take about a year of like card collecting, especially if you just focus on one class instead of all nine. It might even take way much less. Um, you'll pretty much have everything you need at that point, and you'll never need to like purchase any packs with actual money. I only do just because I just like to support the game because I just have a lot of fun with it, and I play with my brother-in-law a lot, and yeah, we have a ton of fun just like even just chatting and checking out the updates. But now that they're rotating this out and bringing back really old cards, updating some other ones, creating some other brand new ones, I don't know. I wish more free to play games had models like this. That weren't just waiting, because I feel like waiting is one of the more popular free to play mechanics. But yeah, this and Brawl Stars, I mean, which also just got like a battle pass not too long ago, that I also feel is completely fair, just because you only get cosmetics from it, or just a few more bonuses, but everything else on the track that you'd get for not paying is still very valuable to progress. And there's so much game you could play for free as well. I mean, I don't remember how Genshin Impact was as far as its monetization or how much you can progress, because I think you mentioned that's like a single player game. But
No,
so these are
it's multiplayer. You can also play multiplayer in that game. But yeah, that is one game where you have to wait to refill your, I forget what it was called, but it was essentially this currency that you would have to wait to play. Oh, it was like you would go through dungeons, or to play those dungeons, you had to have some sort of like, I think it was called like Bright Dust or something like that. But you only had a limited amount of Bright Dust, so you could only grind so much in that game, which I think they either set out to fix or they finally fixed. I'm not too sure. I haven't played Genshin in months at this point.
yeah, because like I guess like for that reason, many games have like different currency, like the stuff you could like exhaust in a day, and then most people will feel like, oh, I don't want to play it anymore until I can, I guess, get more of this exhaustible currency. And Hearthstone kind of has that, but not really. Like, essentially, if you have all the cards you need for your perfect deck, quote unquote, you can just play competitively in the ladder to your heart's content. And you're never going to hit a wall. Like, the only wall you might ever hit, potentially, is if you're trying to collect more coins so that you could buy packs from the shop. But since typically the best strategy is to never spend any coins on packs until the first day that a new expansion comes out. So like next month, I've been saving up all these coins that I'm going to spend on this new expansion. And I literally have enough coins to get 90 plus packs for free. And to give you an idea, 80 packs would probably cost you around like $60. So, and with that many packs, I'm literally going to be able to get every single card I need. And if I don't get the card I need, I could disenchant, which is what you call like sending it back to the game to get GameStop exchange levels of currency that you can use to craft any card you want, no matter what it is, as long as you have enough of that dust, which I think is on I guess one's force's value. So, but you get so many cards from packs that you'll have more than enough to craft, the hardest to get cards and whatnot. And same thing with All Stars, like with Brawl Stars, there's like a currency that runs out. Like every time you play a game, whether you win or lose, you get star tokens, which you use to, like open up little boxes. But, well, actually, no, they don't do that anymore. Now it's just, you get experience points that move you along a track, so you could open up little boxes to get more rewards and stuff. But if you just want to play the game, there's like literally nothing stopping you. And every time you do win, you get trophies, which you get endlessly. Like there's no limit to how many trophies you can get as long as you keep winning. And those also give you a bunch of rewards for constantly winning. So I don't know. I like and I guess for lack of as it's a double-edged sword. As much as I love this mechanic, it also makes them incredibly hard to put down sometimes. And I don't mean like I'll play for 5 hours nonstop. I definitely don't do that. At least I haven't for.
You mean 25 hours nonstop?
At least for like the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like I've been good about just stopping at maybe an hour max. But I mean that I'll probably play this instead of some other games. Like it kind of falls into the Smash Brothers situation. Like those two, Hearthstone, Brawl Stars, and Smash Brothers, have pretty much been responsible for, I guess, my slowly growing backlog. And it sucks because I want to get back to those games. I want to finish Dragon Quest XI, but it's just so much easier to make progress in Brawl Stars or Hearthstone. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you want to feel like you're making progress, and you are. But the other ones have, a finite story that I want to complete, but I just can't get to them. But I know like everyone has like their own like incredibly long backlog of games, but I feel like there's I don't know how this applies to you guys, but I would maybe say of like it's probably not that many. We'll say like 10 plus games that I have that I started and didn't beat. I only really care about like 3 of them that I actually really want to beat. The other ones, you know, they could stay in the shelf forever. And if I get to them, cool. If not, that's fine. But there are those 3 games that I at some point just want to schedule into my, to my gaming time. Like, I mean, especially for you, Jason, like, are there any games that you actually want to go back and play? Or are you literally like, or is it actually a hard stop when the next game comes out and it goes on your Switch and you put the other one on the shelf?
It's none of it's conscious. It's not like a new game comes out and I go, well, time to retire this one. They just kind of fade away.
No, yeah. But that's like, but do you ever go like, oh, I do want to go back and play that? Or you just don't have that thought?
It depends.
Like
I don't
Odyssey,
think there's very many. I don't think there's very many.
Because you were glowing about Odyssey, you were enjoying it, and then
yes,
like,
and I got far by my standards in Odyssey. But I think there is some sort of. I, for better or worse, live very much in like the moment of stuff. You know, like less so now because of the pandemic and everything slowing down production. Like I've been watching older stuff, but very much there was a period there where I'd be like, "Oh, did I miss the boat on X? Okay." And just move on with my life. It's weird. Like I like having things when they're like part of the moment, so to speak. So Odyssey, I was super into in the moment of Odyssey, and I continued being into it for a while. But the idea of going back to it now versus maybe, like I'm going through 3D World with Mario 3D World with a friend online. Like the idea of like, oh well, I played with a friend online. I could push that aside for a while and do Odyssey. It's like, well, no, Odyssey was like 3 years ago. This is the one now, which isn't a knock against the game or a lack of desire to finish that story. It's just like I'm still like in the moment. I don't really know how to describe it. There are, and like even Tetris 99 is my one I always go back to. I mean, honestly, but I go back to it whenever there's a new event in the game that lets me complete my goal of wanting to do all the
like,
Maximus
I envy
cups.
You, because in a way, like you have both no backlog, but
the biggest
so
backlog.
many,
Yeah.
but so many like experiences that you could like. Because I know, like for a fact. I mean, I know for a fact because I've beaten like all these games that I'm thinking of right now. Like all these experiences that I know, like if you went through them, you'll have like those like, oh my god, that was such a great game. But
of course, yeah.
but like because of like the way you operate, like it's also great because you don't have that, I guess, anxiety that like, oh man, I have to go back and be. You're very of the moment, which is cool.
Which is weird because usually I like plan things and plot things a bit more. But so it's weird that like when it comes to like how I consume, it is of the moment. And like I'm that guy that like, oh, I want to watch a show if it's on linear TV, like old school television. If I want to watch a show and I want to be on top of a show, I will watch it when it airs. I can't wait a day. I can't wait 2 days. I need to watch it when it airs, or within like if I'm DVRing it, have it catch up. So by the time it's done airing, I'm done watching too. But I skip the ads or whatever. Like I'm so like of that moment that I can't easily.
Makes me super happy that you're actually that you're going through with Ring Fit Adventure, like playing it every single day. So
well, that one's kind of become a moment. Like I guess a more personal one, but it's like we're going.
It's different.
You and me are doing it. Me and my girlfriend are doing it. Like it's kind of like there's like. It's happening in tandem. Same with Splatoon. Like we're really into Splatoon now, and I'm really into Splatoon now again, as we were talking about, around town that last week, because collectively it's like a more personal moment. So yeah, like the single of our group. So like the single player games, I feel like I hate to say it this way, but when the zeitgeist fully moves on, I sort of go with it, which is weird. Like if Odyssey came out with like an Isle Delfino world as DLC or something, I would jump right back in. No question asked. I would love to do that. But like, it's just something about, I don't know, I think it's because there's just so much content to consume, which I know is something we talked about in the early days of QC. Like there's just so much. And now, even more streaming services and even more, like Paramount Plus just launched the other day. Like there's just so much stuff that I just seem to prefer living more in the current moment than trying to catch up with the past moment.
Which, it's definitely a way to have less baggage.
Yeah. But, it makes it pretty light and airy. It also makes me wonder how many thousands of dollars of content I have not consumed because, I play X amount of a game and then move on.
You supported it, so they're still going to make more.
Yeah, and if my money got me the Isle Delfino DLC, like if I was the tipping point on their sales chart, like, there's those extra $60, we hit the threshold, awesome. And if not, well, the devs still get paid, so it's cool.
I feel like I've come full circle to like, at least like appreciating people like you that do that now, because it's like, we want people like, we want more, we want this game to come out, get the support it needs, but not everyone has to beat the whole thing, like, because the people that beat it and are excited about the sequel that it gets because a lot of people supported it are going to get that, and the ones that are just buying it because it's just what they do or how they do, then.
And if you want to be snarky about it, there is one major advantage to not beating my games, which is when Nintendo then re-releases them, I don't fall into the doldrums that you have, Angel, where it's like, all right, 100% of this. I want to pay $60 for 3 more hours of content. I'd be like, I paid $60 for, however much, I'll do it again. So.
I can guarantee you if I didn't beat any of those games, I would have double dipped, but yeah. What about you, Kevin?
What's funny,
do you
though.
also care about your backlog? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say real quick for you. I was just say what's funny about that, though, is I do have in my head some weird threshold of it needs to be X amount of new content. Like, I did not buy Pikmin 3 Deluxe, but I bought Mario and, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I didn't buy, like, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. I probably won't buy Skyward Sword HD, but, like, I have New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe because, it has some more multiplayer accessible stuff, so I can play with my girlfriend. Like, it's just funny how, like, it's very haphazard how I go about double dipping. So I'm not even consistent there. But anyway, your guess, Kevin. I think the same question.
No, yeah. Like, do you actually care about your backlog? I'm sure you have obscene amounts of games on your Steam account. Oh, God. But, do you actually plan on going back on any of them at some point? I don't know.
No, I have...
What's your take?
It looks like I have 207 games in my Steam library that are uninstalled games that... Yeah, and most of these are from like humble bundles where you pay $20 and you get like 50 games. But as far as games that I start, I usually end them. So my backlog isn't that huge. Like right now, my backlog really just consists of Persona 5 Strikers, and that's pretty much. As much as I love first or like story games, narrative driven games, I find myself playing more games as a service nowadays because I can jump into one really quickly, jump out of it, and then go to another game like that. So, like right now, the games that I'm playing, it's like Final Fantasy XIV, which is game as a service, Overwatch, game as a service, Valorant, which is my new addiction, also game as a service, Apex Legends, another one. And really the only narrative-focused game that I'm playing, or the only single-player game that I'm playing, is Persona 5 Strikers. And I don't really have that much of a backlog. There are games that I do want to get to, like in my Steam library. But, I don't know, it's much easier to just play these games that I already have installed, if like that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I would love to get to Resident Evil 2 at some point, the remake.
Mm-hmm.
But carving out some time for that game, considering that I have all those games that I listed, and then I still have the games that like I play with your brother and like a couple of other friends like Phasmophobia or Deep Rock Galactic, it's hard to slot in more than just one game, one like personal game, that I play off stream and just play for myself.
So was making time for Final Fantasy Remake kind of hard? Or wait, have you beaten it? Are you waiting
Final Fantasy Remake? Oh yeah. I that game was that was one of those games where I can usually only have one. I'm gonna say personal game as like a single player game that I just play for myself. I really only ever have time for one of those at any given time. That happens to be Persona 5 Strikers right now, but it was Final Fantasy 7 Remake when that came out. And like I know upcoming there's like a bunch of other games that I would love, which like Disco Elysium I would love to play. But I want to play that sooner than later, but I'm still, in this hole of I got 6 other games of service games and Persona 5 Strikers. When am I ever going to make the time for Disco Elysium? There was a point where I think I just had started PC gaming and I was just buying everything. Just everything. And I got better at it, but then I still find myself buying like Dragon Quest XI. I'm never going to get to this game ever in my entire life, and I'm probably never ever going to beat it because it's a JRPG that's easily like a good 100 hours before I see the credits. So yeah, as far as backlog, yeah, I just keep it to one game at this point.
So then how do you treat those games? Like, I mean, I'm sure when you beat Persona 5, it was like base Persona 5. So like, did you play and beat Persona 5 Royale? Like, are you going to get play Final Fantasy Remake again on like PlayStation 5 with the Redux? Yeah.
So yeah,
or just gonna buy them and that's it.
Persona 5 Royal I didn't beat. I think I got to the second dungeon because most of the content was still been there, done that by that time. And then I just never played unplugged like my PS4. I do want to get Final Fantasy 7 Remake on the PS5 just because of that 60 frame a second mode, which that game already looked beautiful, and with 60 frames, oh man, that'd be awesome.
Not for the new content for 60 frames?
Well, the new content you still do have to pay for. Like, it's not, it just doesn't come free.
I thought it came with the upgrade. Interesting.
No. If you bought Final Fantasy 7 Remake on PS4, you get the upgrade for free, but you don't get the extra content. And the extra content is only available on PS5.
Gotcha.
Pretty much all I got on my backlog. Nothing. I'm fortunate enough to like not have all these games that I want to play. Well, no, I do have all these games that I want to play, but
but you're not being held back by them, or you're not letting it. I guess
I'm not letting it stack. I guess.
I was gonna say that's interesting though. That like, so they come out with new content for Final Fantasy 7, but you're going back because you want it to look pretty, but experiencing the same thing. Like for me, it'd be like the total, or not look pretty, but run smoother and look prettier. For me, it'd be like the total opposite. Because like I'll go, if Smash got some sort of graphical, like let's say a Switch Pro happens, right? 4K Switch. We'll talk about it next episode. It's looking like it's happening. But, there goes, let's say, upres Smash. Will I start playing Smash more because they upresed it? Probably not. But if they release, when they released Pyra and Mirthra the other day, yeah, I'm going to jump back in and try them out. When they, do DLC, I'll be right there. But if it's just like, oh, it's the same thing that you already kind of did, but it's nicer now in different ways, like for me, that, like there needs to be some, again, it's weird because I need like an event or some sort of like monumental thing. I can't just go back. Like it's such an interesting contrast of like where you're at and where I'm at.
Yeah, one thing that at least I did change going forward because I was having a chat with my brother a little while ago. Actually, it was probably a little more than a little while ago, but it was actually around the time that Last of Us 2 came out, because I remember rushing through that game because I felt that if I didn't beat it in that weekend, I probably would take me way longer to beat it because of other games that I was playing that were single. Because I usually have a lot of single player games that I'm playing at the same time, which is why they fall behind, because, I'm also playing like these other multiplayer things, like the ones I already mentioned. But then my brother, like, he just kept asking me, like, wait, like, what's the rush? Like, well, I won't get to it. It's like, well, like, who cares, like, if it takes, like, why can't it take, like, a year or two? Or even, like, when I get to the other ones, like, I don't know. I guess it made me realize that there was I don't know why I was acting as if there was some sort of deadline. I mean, I guess outside of death. Because, our time in this world is limited and all that stuff.
Of course.
Yeah, because, like, I obviously, like, not worried about it being in the zeitgeist. Like Jason, like, I'll play through the game. I revisit so many games. That's probably the one that hurts me the most. Like, outside of these multiplayer games, like, I can't tell you how many times I've replayed and beat Rhythm Heaven, or, like some other, like a Super Nintendo or N64 era games, instead of, playing a new one. But I guess I've come to just be happy with a pace, like just choosing a pace and just sticking with it and just not worrying about when it's gonna happen. But like I do plan on eventually beating Bayonetta 1 and 2. Like I do plan on finishing Dragon Quest. I do plan on going back on playing freaking the sequel to 999 and the third one Virtue. Well, I think the second one's Virtue's Last Reward and the third one I forgot what the name is. Because I mean I have them both. They're just kind of waiting there. Like literally
Zero Time Dilemma.
Yeah, Zero Time Dilemma. Because like I love those kind of games. Like I have to play them. It took me I don't know how many years to get to Layden versus Phoenix, but I did, and I am so happy I did because I love that game. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll take longer, but I guess that means I'll have plenty of random games to talk about, be it here, if it's not Nintendo, or at Random Nintendo when I do beat them. You know,
to your point about like being glad you play games later on, like to be fair, there are exceptions to my rule. Like when I discovered
play games that are what?
Like playing games later on. Like to be fair, there are exceptions. Like granted, it is because I saw a tweet that the game was on sale, but there was that one. Wow, I just completely blanked out on the name. You played it too, Angel. Family House, narrative driven, mini games for each family member. You know what I'm talking about?
Heck, Family House?
No, it's like you're
Full
going
House?
to visit your yes, no, you're going to visit the home of your deceased family, first person. Mostly narrative driven.
Oh, freaking Edith Finch.
Thank you, Edith Finch. I keep wanting to say Oberdin, but that's the Game Boy camera looking boat game. No, yeah, Edith Finch. Like that was one. I heard it was good. It was like 3 years after release. It was like $4 by mistake, and I loved it so much. And now I'm like super attentive to Annapurna Perna's publishing things because you know the next thing they did that I played was Sayonara Wild Hearts, which I did play when it came out, and I loved it. So now like I've discovered the whole thing through an old.
So that
game.
was them as well.
They published them both, yeah.
Oh, published her.
And now they have one coming out on Xbox exclusively at the moment called like 12 Minutes or something, which looks real. It's like a Groundhog Day murder mystery top-down thing. It looks so cool. Like I'm so into them now, but it's only through like some circumstantial. I saw a tweet. So there are exceptions to you know I have to do the thing that's like in the moment. But yeah, I just thought I'd say it because you're making a point of how you'll go back and discover something later. And yeah, that's happened for me too. To be fair, I'm not that in the moment.
Which you know also made me less, I guess, anxious about trying to get through my Tales backlog because I'm playing those with my brother, but our schedules don't always align. Like we'll maybe play like an hour or two every other week, and it's a Tales of game, so those are like 40+ hours each. And currently, right now, like we're going through Tales of Xillia. We already have Tales of Zestiria on the PS4. We have Tales of Vesperia also on the PS4. We have Tales of Bestiria also on the PS4 that are just waiting. And yeah, it took forever, but at least we're trying to play those a little more consistent. The other one that's going to throw a wrench into things soon is going to be Monster Hunter, because that one you do kind of have to play around the time it comes out. I can't just like put it in the back and get to it when I get to it, just because those games are much better with other people, and you know you can't expect everyone to be doing that as well. So. Yeah, and I mean,
your levels all need to rise in tandem. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Because Monster Hunter rise. We
get it. We get it.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, because that happened to Monster Hunter World. I didn't get to, by the time I played it, you know, which was like, oh, I'll get to when I get to. It was like a year and a half later. Everyone that I would have liked to play with already beat it, and they didn't really want to like go back to the beginning. Somewhere, but it was like, yeah, it was at that point. Yeah, kind of like a lost cause, and I probably won't get back to that game. I might just play the campaign and that's it, and just not grind or beat every monster.
So you mean you need your levels to go up with everyone else in the world at that time?
Yeah.
Because Monster Hunter World. I can do this with every title. I don't know how I make 3 Ultimate work, but try me.
Monster Hunter Try.
Yeah, to try to level up with everyone else. I'm trying
you just try to come up with TRI.
But anyway. You have to try to level up with everyone in tandem, or else you're falling behind. Easy.
So
because Monster Hunter Try.
So yeah, I just said curious what like how many other variations of this like quote unquote backlog dilemma or lack thereof in many people's cases. Like I wonder if I'm more in the, I guess, majority, or...
I think you're a majority, truthfully. There's so many things online and jokes and cons about giant backlogs, and, you know, I think anyone... with a Steam account has some, I mean, Kevin, I think is the exception, but most people with Steam account probably have a huge backlog. You know, anytime you buy a Humble Bundle, you have an instant backlog, as Kevin was saying. So
yeah, but
it's just how you prioritize it. Yeah,
it's just the intent. I guess like how many games you have the intent of having wanted to play.
I'm trying to figure out when I switched over to how I currently consume games. Because when I was a kid, I would play, you know, the same. I beat Star Fox 64 like so many. I know it's a short game, but I beat it so many times, like double-digit times. Same with Yoshi's Story, and I got really far in Banjo-Kazooie. I would have beaten.
You could roll the credits in an hour.
I would have beaten Banjo-Kazooie if I didn't accidentally delete my save file right before I got to Grunty and was too mad about it to go back and do it all again.
Those are the worst.
It was so confusing because I was like sitting there, I'm like, yeah, let's play. And it's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm sure I want to play. Yeah. And it's like, okay, deleted. I'm like, wait, what? And like, you know what I think it was? I think it's when I started following the Nintendo news cycle a bit more. Like as I started to read Nintendo Power more, and as I started to go on the forums more, and as I started to like look towards what's next more than what I have now, that's when it became more like fleeting, more ephemeral, more like I play it in the moment and it's gone type of thing. So really what I'm saying is I blame my passion for Nintendo for preventing me from truly experiencing my passion for Nintendo.
Damn.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, unless you got anything more to talk about.
A new trailer for Tales of Arise is coming out soon. Jesus,
it already came out.
Damn it.
when you were talking about it, I was like, wait, should I mention this or
no?
Well, real-time breaking news.
Well, like I said, I'll get to it when I get to it.
I don't think that game is going to be multiplayer though.
Uh-oh.
So something about that combat system doesn't. I don't think it will probably, or maybe it has. And I always get this Deuterogonus, I think is like two main characters. How do you say it? Okay, this was episode 21 of Quarantine Chronicles.
We just harmonized our uhs. That was pretty good. Or almost harmonized.
Well, I know there's still that Switch one that's eventually coming out, if it ever is.
There's a Switch one?
I remember they announced in like a Tales of thing that they were going to do an exclusive one for the Switch.
It was just like a passing like, yeah, we're going to make one for
It was
Switch.
literally just a
thumbs up. Yeah.
Which, you know, yeah, could have been.
Well, Bandai Namco is introducing their own version of Nintendo Directs called Bandai Namco Next. It was trademarked the other week, so maybe it'll show up in the first one of those because they got to have enough announcements to fill one of those, right? So maybe.
Maybe.
And cool. That'll wrap up this episode of Quarantine Chronicles. Next week we will have a brand new episode of the Random Nintendo podcast where I assume we're going to be talking about Pyra,
I think.
Pyra and her other half, whatever that.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. We have Apex Legends on Switch. We have probably other things. And also, it's our 250th episode. That's a milestone. So that means a giveaway. That's all I'm going to say. Giveaway. So if you like eShop cash of certain quantities, you may want to tune in.
I believe the next episode of Quarantine Chronicles, the Snyder Cut's going to be out.
Oh, man.
I think that might be an episode by itself.
Actually, to be fair, Kevin, I think it's in let me check. Is it next episode? Is the Snyder Cut out like that weekend? Oh, it's out that Thursday, and we record that Saturday and put it up that Sunday. I'm going to be binging some Snyder, I guess, next week. Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Time to take some time off from work. So I could watch Snyder Cut on loop and pick apart every little detail.
Yep. So follow us on YouTube. We are randomnintendo.com on there. Follow us on your favorite podcasting app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Google Podcasts. Amazon still doesn't... Is our podcast on Amazon? Because I know there's some podcasts on
I'm not sure. They do have a podcasting app. It was invite only at one point. I don't know when they're switching it over or if they already did. I will check. We will eventually be on Amazon.
We are still on Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Mm-hmm. We are at Random Nintendo on Twitter. Individually, Jason is at JSR7. Angel is at WEIRO_O, and I am Kevin Gomi. And with that, we will leave Jason with the final word of the episode.
I'm really trying to reconcile with being the Ashlee Simpson of Nintendo. And I don't know how I feel about that.